Alright, so I thought I'd do something fun today. I had a friend who used to play Marvel Future Fight, disappeared for about a year or two, came back, asked for recommendations on which characters to build. So, I thought I would go through most of the characters and just kind of give my 2 cents on if I think you should build them or not and how high and where I feel like they're good at. This is just an opinion-based video, so of course take it with a grain of salt, but if you're interested, hang out. If not, thanks for watching so far. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. My 3 favorite characters in the game, we'll start with them. That's why I've got them starred. Doctor Strange. Is Doctor Strange worth it? Yes. Yes, he is. Tier 3, level 80. Perfectly recommend for anyone's account. As far as high-end whale accounts, you probably don't need to tier 4 him. There's better options for multiple game modes. But I do recommend tier 4ing him because he gets pretty decent boost. His uniforms, unfortunately, his latest uniform was just not that much of a boost from his last one, but you still want his latest uniform for sure. He's definitely a rage type of a character. He's good in multiple PvE game modes. He's good in AB, even though others can outshine him. And he does GBR. He does World Boss Legendary. Yeah, no, he's a pretty solid character, pretty solid choice. Definitely someone I would recommend building. And yes, you need his uniform. Most of these characters you need the uniform on. Magneto, 100%. He's probably the king of ABX, ABL. But you need his seasonal uniform. And you need a rage. But tier 4 him. Absolutely tier 4 him. Without his uniform, don't even worry about it. But with his uniform, tier 4 him. Shang-Chi. My 3rd favorite character in all of Marvel. Those are kind of in order. Doctor Strange, Magneto, and Shang-Chi. Unfortunately, right now, I cannot recommend Shang-Chi. I can't recommend you build him at all. He does do World Boss Legendary pretty decently. He's a PvE character. For a while there, he was pretty good in PvP, but he fell off pretty quick. So right now, he just doesn't have a spot where he really shines. So it's kind of a skip for most players. Adam Warlock, PvP. With PvP, need his uniform. But he is probably one of the top, in my opinion, PvP characters in the game. Oh, jump past Othin. Othin, yes, you need his uniform. His tier 4 is not a huge jump from his tier 3. He is AB meta. He's a PvE character. Would I recommend building him? He's expensive, but I think he's worth it in the long run. He's reasonably decent if you look at all AB characters and ABL characters as a whole. But yeah, that's pretty much where he shines as a PvE character. So I would say recommend him if you have the resources. If not, there are cheaper alternatives. Jean Grey, one of the most expensive characters in the game and probably the most expensive character in the game. She can do anything. Now, if you build her for PvE, she'll shine there and she'll struggle in PvP. And vice versa. If you build her for PvP, she'll shine there and she'll struggle for PvE. And when I say struggle, I mean it very loosely. You do need her Dark Phoenix uniform. You do need a Rage, even though she can use a Judgment. She can pretty much do everything in the game. Very expensive character. Highly recommend her. Very worth it. If you can afford the resources, build Jean Grey. Storm, ABL meta. That's basically it. She's a glass cannon. You need her seasonal uniform. Her tier 4 does do a sizable increase, but it is lacking. I will not put her towards the top of the list. There's probably other options, and eventually we'll get other options as well. If you can afford her, sure. But yeah, besides for ABL specifically, there's nowhere that she super shines, in my opinion. Obviously, she can do World Boss Legendary difficulty because she's a glass cannon, but yeah, PvE character. Dr. Octopus, I would recommend him right now. I feel like he is combat villain meta for AB. I'm an AB focused character, so that's the thing I'll bring up most of the time. He doesn't do very good in GBR. He does so in World Boss Legendary. He's an AB character. So if you want an AB combat character, tier 4 him. You need his uniform, of course. Moon Knight. Right now, I think we have enough combat characters that are coming up around the corner, and he has been meta for the combat hero male for some time. I don't know if I would recommend building him anymore. He's kind of fallen off a little bit. He's still good. He's got a lot of heal and sustain. Definitely has some AB values still. He can do pretty decent World Boss Legendary, but not real high from what I've experienced. And he can do GBR. Black Widow. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say I do not recommend her at all. Zero zip. At this point, she's a striker. So many other speed female characters have come out that have overshadowed her. There's really no point in talking any further about her. Luna Snow. If you can afford her seasonal uniform, the Summer Lilac, absolutely 100% worth it. She is the queen of AB, both ABX and ABL. Definitely needs a Rage. Even her other uniform, she's pretty decent if you tier 4 her. You want to tier 4 this character. She's probably the best, strongest hero speed female character in the game, and I don't even think that's like an if, ands, or buts. It is. very few people can compete with her score. Jean Grey can, and then you have a lot of other characters that come in under. Magneto is a little better than Jean Grey in a lot of the AV modes, but it's kind of like Luna, Magneto at the top. And then you have other characters like Doctor Strange, Jean Grey, and Black Bolt, and maybe Ghost Rider now. So yeah, I would definitely recommend Luna Snow. Spider-Man, PvP. I don't think you need him. If you want to build him for PvP and you want to build him right, sure, you need his back to basics uniform, of course. He's good, but there's a lot of debuff, remove debuffs, so he doesn't really get a chance to web people up. He still does pretty good in PvP, but yeah, unless you're PvP focused, he's pretty much a skip. Black Bolt. If you have his Fallen Souls uniform, it's seasonal uniform, it's for sale right now. He is one of the heaviest hitting characters in the game. He's up there in the top 5 in my opinion. And you need a rage and stuff, pretty easy to use, need his uniform. I would recommend him. Yeah, I would tier 4 him. I would recommend him to most people. AB, ABX, ABL, both, GBR, World Boss Legendary, he does it all. Solid character. Thor, kind of falls off a little bit. Odin is better. Elemental Lightning, Hero Male, Universal Alien. He hits all the same categories. Odin's just a better version of Thor at this point. Thor, I don't know if I'd recommend anymore, unless you're on a budget. Budget-wise, I would tier 4 him still. He's also a very good striker for all ABL days. So, one is uniform, of course. You want a rage, you could do a judgment, but probably put a rage on him if you're going to use him instead of Odin. If you're going to use him as backup, you probably don't need to tier 4 him necessarily. Tier 3 should be enough, but I would still build him. Also, a very, very good farming character as well. PvE focused, of course. Thanos is now PvE with the newest uniform. His old uniform is PvP, but his old PvP uniform kind of fell off with the newest uniform. I don't think I would recommend tier 4ing him. I think with Loki next season coming around the corner, he's probably going to replace Thanos. I think there's some other options. He doesn't have a lot of days for AB, but he is right now AB meta. And he can be used in different game modes. He is proc friendly, very easy to use character. You do need the Wise Harvester uniform, but I can't highly recommend him. He's a very expensive character, and there are alternative options. Cable. I don't really think you need him for anything. He has a single day he can take from Storm. So there's a ABL day for mutant blast mutants, and then there's female blast mutants. Storm can do both days. Cable could take one of those days from her at tier 4. At tier 3, he rivals my tier 4 Storm. He's easy to use, pretty smooth rotation. I still think I would recommend a rage on him over an energy. Because I saw so much more damage in AB, but he can do AB in World Boss Legendary. I don't really see a lot of success with him in GBR. I'm sure if you build him enough and build him right, you probably could do GBR fine. I just don't see him excelling there. So for the most part, I think he's a skip for most people. I still think he's a good character. It's just, I think he's overshadowed. Wolverine's PvP. Very brutal PvP. And if you're focused on PvP, you can consider tier 4ing him. But there's other characters I would tier 4 first, like Adam Warlock or Jean Grey or someone like that, before I would tier 4 Wolverine. But, yeah, if you like Wolverine PvP, go for it. Not a huge recommendation, though. Namor. With Dr. Octopus, I think Namor is a skip. If you don't like Dr. Octopus, or you prefer Namor, I think the two of them compete pretty decently in almost all the same game modes. I feel like Dr. Octopus is a little bit more spammy of the skills, and Namor has more of a rotation focus. I have a judgment on mine, but I still think a judgment or a rage is probably the way to go with him. You do need his newest uniform. He is a good character. He's still a solid pick for a tier 4, but again, I don't think you need 2 combat villain characters, because whether it's World Boss Legendary or AB, you know, you still have, you only need the one. With World Boss Legendary, though, I don't know how well he does, because I haven't built him beyond tier 3. Professor X is a skip, in my opinion. I don't think there's anywhere he super shines. He's not a terrible character, and he can be tiered 4. He's pretty decent, but he just doesn't shine anywhere, so I would probably skip him. Black Panther, I haven't experimented with him that much, but I haven't heard people talking about him. So if he's really good anywhere, it might be World Boss Legendary. He's a PvE-focused character, it seems. With a tier 4, he gets a nice bump, but I'm not sure he rivals Moon Knight. He might. He might even be better than Moon Knight. I just haven't heard a lot, and I haven't experimented with him much, so I kind of have been just ignoring the character to focus on others. So as of right now, for the most part, you'll see most of these characters that can be tiered 4. I pretty much have all of them at level 80. because I think a level 80 character makes content in the game easier. So if they can get to level 80, I usually build them. You do need his newest uniform. Without it, he doesn't have the same bump or same presence as he did without it. So it's definitely a nice bump to the character. I don't think it puts him into the top meta where he shines anywhere. So I would probably skip him. Captain America, I think, is a skip. Likewise, I have him at level 80. He's just not super shining. He's kind of in that same actually, Black Panther's probably better than him, but he's in that same category of like there are better options. Carnage is PvP focused mainly. I think they're a better PvP character, so I would skip him. Hulk is incredible in PvP, and he's up there towards just above Wolverine, I would say, or around the same area as Wolverine. Maybe Wolverine is a little bit better of an option. Scales off hit points. You could tier 4 him if you're PvP focused. His PvP build does do good in PvE, but I think there's better options if you're PvE focused. So for PvP, I would probably recommend building Hulk. Venom. I don't think he's as good as Moon Knight. I've had people argue back and forth, and I've seen his damage output be close to Moon Knight's, but I think Moon Knight has a little bit of a friendlier rotation. Definitely has a cool uniform, definitely an upgrade, but again, I don't think you need all these combat heroes. So out of those ones that we talked about so far, I would say probably Moon Knight and either Venom or Black Panther next, and then Cap's below that, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, again, and I don't have all these characters built or really fleshed out. I base this upon opinions from others and whether I've seen others do, and then my experiments with them at tier 3. All right, Sharon Rogers, Captain America. I leave her at tier 3 level 80. She does perfectly fine. You could tier 4 her, but she's like a world boss legendary whiz. She doesn't really shine anywhere else. I mean, she can do GBR really, really well. She's not an AB character at all. Definitely PvE focused, 100% for sure. You do want her latest uniform. I just need to stop saying that we just assume you need the latest uniform on all these characters when I talk about them. But yeah, she's energy proc friendly, nice easy rotation, and she just walks through world boss legendaries like nothing. Iron Man, I think he fell off. I mean, he's still good. He's still a very good farm character. He can still compete, but I think Cable's a little bit better than him as far as like male blasts go, and Doctor Strange is definitely better than him, even at a tier 4. I mean, you could tier 4 him. I wouldn't recommend it. I think he's a skip at this point. Star-Lord still has a meta day for ABL because he can be double supported if you want to tier 4 him. I don't think I would recommend it because there's other options. He is really good at tier 4 with this uniform, and he has a double support option that are specific to Guardians of the Galaxy with both Groot and Rocket. So if you like him, I mean, you can consider it. I just didn't feel the need for him on my account, but I would probably recommend building Star-Lord still. Ant-Man, in my opinion, a skip. Now, I do know a couple people that have done great success and great things with Ant-Man, especially with a tier 4. I just think there's better... Actually, there's not a lot of better male speed characters. He is one of the better male speed characters. He's PvE focused, unlike Spider-Man, who's PvP focused. So if you need a male speed character, which I don't think you need for most days or most gameplay, you could probably build him still. Miles Morales. I mean, I don't even know what to say about Miles. You need his latest uniform. Across the Spider-Verse. I have trouble with him. He actually does good with the Judgment, but across the Spider-Verse uniform, he is like Sharon Rogers. He will walk through World Boss Legendary like it's nothing. And this is the other male speed character that's better than Ant-Man. Between Miles and Ant-Man, Miles is better. Miles is worth tier 4ing, but even at tier 3, he's going to walk through World Boss Legendary. So I probably would recommend building him at this point. Because I have a tier 4 Spider-Man, though, I'm using this uniform for the leadership. Mephisto at this point is a skip. Very expensive character, and he's just not niche anymore. He's kind of been retired. Gore, PvP. He is one of the top PvP characters, in my opinion. He's up there with Jean and Adam. Jean, Adam, and Gore are probably the top 3, followed by Wolverine and Hulk, in my opinion, when it comes to PvP. Not support characters, but actual PvP characters. He's expensive, but he's good. Kang the Conqueror. I'd put him underneath Gore. I mean, he seems like he's pretty good, and he's definitely PvP focused. I don't see him on a lot of teams. I don't see a lot of people using him, but it's PvP. Because of how expensive him and Gore are, I would probably skip on both of them if you're limited on resources. Null, at this point, unfortunately, is kind of a skip. He's fallen off like Mephisto. Sentry, if everyone else is restricted, he is PvP usable, but he's just not top meta for PvP anymore. He's kind of a skip at this point. Ebony Maw, support character with this uniform dark obsidian armor. I would probably just tier 3 him. I would not build him beyond tier 3. Quicksilver, I would not recommend at all. Doctor Doom, PvP, but budget PvP with his uniform, I would tier 3 him. Potentially, if you want to get a budget team together. He's still going to get walked through. Dormammu is a skip at this point. Proxima Midnight with this uniform as a support / lead. Scarlet Witch is meta at tier 3 with this uniform. Marvel Studios Doctor Strange 2. Rage, of course, but Judgment also works on her. Very, very spammy. Easy to use character, scores really high. And she probably eventually will get her tier 4 since she's a very popular character. So I would definitely recommend building Scarlet Witch. Silver Surfer at this point is a skip. He still can do budget PvP at this point, but there's so many other characters that are better. He's kind of a skip in my opinion. Unless you need like timeline battle stuff or Conquest. If you want more PvP characters for Conquest, then you would probably want Surfer just because of his leadership alone. Apocalypse is kind of a skip at this point. He's not really shining anywhere. Strife is a support character at this point. Awesome. I would tier 3 him so that you can use him in multiple game modes. But yeah, he's a solid support character, and he does do good damage. Mr. Fantastic, right? Mr. Fantastic is a skip. I would not tier 4 him. I would not build him. I think he's long overshadowed. Deadpool, complete skip. This uniform gives him great leadership. Without this uniform, he still does decent World Boss Legendary. You don't really need Deadpool anywhere. He's kind of a skip at this point, in my opinion. Omega Red's kind of a skip. Sabretooth, PvP, budget, but skip. Cyclops, support / lead. It is important to have both the modern and the Phoenix 5, so you can swap back and forth between hero and villain Cyclops. And I accidentally exited out. So I would recommend him, highly recommend him, and tier 3ing him. Emma Frost, PvP. Very powerful PvP, but don't know if you need her as much as some of the other PvP characters, and you do need her uniform. So if you want to invest in her, she does fantastic, and she's worth tier 3ing for PvP. Iceman's a skip, unfortunately. Polaris, lead support for mutants, and I recommend her, tier 3 her. Good choice for support / lead. She does do good in her own right, but she's basically a support lead. Lead only, and honestly, there's better options. I don't know if it would work on Kitty Pryde at all. She's got a good solid leadership, but unless you need more lead options, there's no reason to build her, in my opinion. Rogue has fallen off. Hopefully she gets a uniform and give people a run for their money. Like, I don't know. I don't know where she would be used, but right now she's kind of a skip, in my opinion. Blade, unfortunately, is a lead only for people like Moon Knight, Weapon Master type characters, combat characters. Blade's kind of a skip, unfortunately. I like Blade a lot. His new uniform's awesome. Tried him with a Rage, and I just couldn't get him to work anywhere. So at this point, I feel like he's a lead only. Crescent's a skip, lead only at this point, in my opinion. Groot's a support only, in my opinion. Kingpin, Winter Criminal uniform was meta a long time ago. He's fallen off. Don't build him. Punisher, skip. She-Hulk, she's actually meta and a lead. She's meta for AB Female Combat Day. I would tier 3 her, get her uniform, and build her up. Hopefully we eventually get a good combat character for Female Combat Day. As of right now, it's kind of She-Hulk's the only option. I mean, there are swap stuff that you can do, but she seems to be the main damage dealer for most of the Combat Female Days at this point. Taskmaster, support, need the uniform, awesome support character, usable in very niche situations, definitely with tier 3 Taskmaster. Ancient One is kind of a skip at this point. Ancient One is solid. Tier 3 Ancient One is good in PvP, so good, and can do pretty much all of the PvE content, such as World Boss Legendary, even GBR, reasonably well. Kind of like a few steps below Doctor Strange's old uniform at tier 3. Ancient One is more powerful than people give her credit for, but she doesn't shine. And she has a lead / support ability, but I mean, honestly, I don't think you need her. I don't think she's needed for any team, so it's probably a skip. Enchantress, great support character with War of the Realms. I would recommend building her to tier 3. MODOK, even though good, he's kind of a skip. Rocket Raccoon, support or skip. Sister Grimm, in my opinion, is a skip. I mean, even with her new buff and stuff, I think there's better options. War Machine is a support for Iron Man, otherwise I would skip him, even with his buffs. Black Panther Shuri. I think that she's needed as a tier 3, both lead slash support options for speed female. She does fantastic. And yes, she's strong in her own right, but she's basically lead support, in my opinion. Captain America Sam Wilson at this point, I think, is a skip. Chasm is a support character for Spider characters, so you can use him with Miles Morales and stuff. With the uniform, of course. Without the uniform, Scarlet Spider is not worth building, but the Chasm uniform makes him a solid support. I think it's some sort of spider. I think it's like a spider support on one of his passives here. Yeah, spider sense characters with that damage dealt, so. Daredevil, budget PvP or skip, but tier 3 if you really want to budget PvP. Green Goblin is meta for AB with the red Goblin uniform, even with the old one. What was it? Far From Home 2, I think it's called. No Way Home. No Way Home. Is still worth building, but yeah, definitely recommend tier 3 and Green Goblin. Gwenpool is a skip in my opinion. Hawkeye, I mean, he's better, but he's still a skip. I don't think he's needed anywhere and doesn't shine anywhere. Kamala at this point, I really do think Kamala is a skip. Even though she was really good when she first came out with her tier 3, I feel like she's fallen off. There's better options. Sin is a new support character with her newest uniform. I would tier 3 Sin. Looks like a sweet support option, although we don't know how good it's going to be because she's very niche. Villain speed female is a very niche role. Squirrel Girl is kind of a skip in my opinion. White Fox, probably one of the best supports for leaders in the game. Lifestyle Series 2 or not, I would probably build White Fox to a tier 3. She's a great support character. Winter Soldier's kind of a skip. Wong, great support option. Great support option. Maybe consider tier 3ing him. Magic allies like Doctor Strange, 53% damage dealt. Solid choice. And with Rage, he was doing so okay. A little bit worse than Ancient One, but around, you know, that level of being usable, but doesn't really shine anywhere. So unless I'm using him as a support, I would say he's a skip. Captain Marvel's a skip. Ghost Rider, newest uniform so far. Looks like it's making him rival both Odin and Black Bolt. Obviously, the jury's still out on this, but I would probably at least tier 3 him level 80, at least. We'll see what he's like at tier 4 in the days to come, but it looks promising. Looks very promising, so yeah. I would probably recommend Ghost Rider. Hela, leadership. Icarus, leadership if you really need it, but probably a skip. Loki. TVA tier 3 does solid in AB, but there's better options. Thanos does better. There's other characters that do so much better. He can still do okay. He's squishy, so hopefully if he gets a tier 4 and a new uniform, he'll actually be worth it. But as of right now, I would probably say skip at the moment, but keep in mind he might come back. Morgan Le Fay with Fallen Souls, great support character. Thena at this point is kind of a skip. She has a decent leadership, and she used to do decent, but skip at this point. Jane Foster is kind of a skip. Kind of a free-to-play, budget-friendly PvE, but I would still skip her. Vision is a good lead for Scarlet Witch, but for the days she does for AB, you're not using Vision anyway, so he's probably a skip in my opinion. But he does have a nice boost for her for like World Boss Legendary and stuff, if you're using her in other game modes. Blue Dragon, I would skip her. Gamora, because Luna's better, I would skip her, but she's right up there with one other character as being one of the top female speed characters in the game, and she is worth tier 4ing if you want to, but I would still focus on Luna. Shadow Shell, because Gamora's better, I would regulate her to Transcendence. I would transcend her. I would get her up to 80. She does really good in World Boss Legendary. Fantastic with a normal proc. Super proc friendly, World Boss Legendary focused. She could do AB and ABX, ABL and ABX, but again, with Luna, it's like, why even talk about her at this point? She can use Blue Dragon's leadership, and Blue Dragon does do good. I would still probably get both of them transcended to 80, but I wouldn't tier 3 either of them, or tier 4. Tier 3 or tier 4. I'm sorry, it's transcended. It's not tier 4. I would not tier 4 either, but I would transcend both of them. I think they're worth using on different teams, both in PvP modes. So, yeah, they help each other out pretty well, too. It's just, aside from World Boss Legendary, she doesn't shine, so I feel like there's other characters to focus on instead. Spider-Gwen, jump past her. Spider-Gwen across Spider-Verse uniform is probably right under Luna. It's Gamora and Spider-Gwen side to side for speed female, and she has leadership, so she can use White Fox, too. I would 100% recommend building her very least 80 Transcended, but I would tier 4 her probably, unless you have Luna. I mean, if you have Luna, just go with Luna. But she's a very strong character. Corvus kind of fell off. I don't think I would use him anywhere. I would say skip. Supergiant at this point, unfortunately, is also a skip. Beta Ray Bill, leadership or skip. Colossus, support character. Warpath is a skip. X-23, skip. Bishop is a skip. Captain Britain is a skip. Gambit's a skip. Mr. Sinister's a skip. Angel's a skip. Domino, decent support for some PvP stuff. There's better options, so you can consider her for PvP, maybe. Mystique is still a support character. If she ever gets a uniform and a tier 3 or a tier 4, she might come back into play, but just having her support, she's probably worth building, so I would recommend her. Nightcrawler is a skip. Drax is a skip. Amadeus Cho is a skip. Hulkbuster, lead for Iron Man or skip. Iron Fist. I mean, he's got a good lead for the Defenders, and he's also part of the Midnight Suns, but he's just lacking in most of the game modes. Unless you really want him as like a lead or something for some weird team up with the Defenders, I would just skip him. Man-Thing, I would skip him. Morbius, unfortunately, is a skip. Nebula is a skip. Skip. Red Guardian. Civ is a good lead and support. So she was meta for a while there for Combat Female Day. She's just, at this point, a lead support. So I would say recommend building her just for that alone. You do need her uniform, but she has a solid support and lead skill. Swordmaster is a skip. Titania is worth building and transcending. She's actually swap meta, and she has a great leadership, and with Rage, she does fantastic on Combat Female Day. She can help with the canceling and stuff. She's still worth building. Toxin's a skip. Valkyrie is one of the best support characters in the game. Works with anyone, 55% damage dealt. She does do okay in her own right, but now, use her as a support. She's a support character and definitely worth getting. War Tiger, I feel, is a skip. Human Torch at this point is a skip. Invisible Woman, skip. Malekith, as much as they tried, he is better. He's a skip, in my opinion. Moonstone's a skip. Mysterio, with his uniform, is an incredibly solid support needed for AB days. Definitely recommend him. Transcend him, get as high as you can. Go Mysterio. Mysterio is a fantastic character. Absolutely build him. Rescue's a skip. Riri is a decent lead, but I would probably skip her. Cersei's a skip. Spectrum's a skip. Spider-Woman, support-wise for Miles, or even Spider-Man, but aside from that, she's a skip. Wasp, support character for PvP game modes. She's still good, but again, probably just support in my opinion. Era's a skip. Arachnite's a skip. Bullseye's a skip. Electro's a skip. Elsa Bloodstone's a skip. Hawkeye Kate Bishop, even though she does good, I would still skip her. Kengo, skip. Kraven the Hunter, support character for Green Goblin. You need his uniform, but incredible support option there. I would recommend building him, transcending him, build him up, use him. Makari is a skip. Mordo's a skip. Spot's a skip. Sunbird's a... Well, Sunbird, if you're going to do a Warriors of the Sky team with Shadow Shell, since she's really good, Blue Dragon lead, Sunbird, and Shadow Shell, they all buff each other, get second life, and all that good stuff. I would build him for that team, but other than that, he's a skip. And honestly, the Warriors of the Sky team is dropping off, so I don't even think I would recommend building any of them at this point. Vulture's a skip. Wave lead support. I would still recommend building and transcending her for lead support options. Angela, with her uniform, is an incredible support option for AB days. Absolutely 100% worth building her and giving her an insight even, actually. So, yeah, I would build her. I would recommend her. Clea's a skip, unfortunately. I hope she gets a uniform soon. Dr. Voodoo, skip. I mean, he's got a solid lead option for certain niche game modes, and he has pretty good support skills. He does okay, but I would skip him. Ghost Panther, lead support, needed lead for fire characters, build him, 100% build him, and level him up. Heimdall's a skip. Medusa's a skip. Beast, skip. Weapon X is a skip. American Chavez, PvP options for support, still skip. Gilgamesh, skip. Lizardman, skip. Luke Cage, budget PvP. Otherwise, skip him. Sandman's a skip. Mantis is a skip. Red Skull's a skip. Yelena's a skip. Dazzler, support. I want a tier 3 Dazzler. She's fantastic, very powerful character, probably the best for mutants, 65% damage dealt. Build her, build her, build her, get her if you can get her. Jubilee is a skip. Kid Omega's a skip. Magic's a skip. Negasonic Teenage Warhead's a skip. Rachel Summers is a skip. M'Baku is an incredible lead, and with his artifact makes him even better. Build him as high as you can. If you can get him higher, great, but he's a great, great lead option for combat days for AB. Awesome character. Minerva's a skip. Red She-Hulk's a skip. Daisy Johnson's a skip. Hydra Man's a skip. Phil Coulson is a good support option for very niche days for AB, and he's a support. He's a good support, but he's heroes only. I would probably build him still. I have him built. Wen Wu's a skip. Agent 13's a skip. Black Cat, with the uniform, she's a good lead. I think she's falling off, though. So I think there's better options. I would probably be very cautious about building her or getting her uniform. Cassie Lang's a skip. Elektra's a skip. Katie, skip. Nick Fury, great lead still. Obviously, at a tier 2, he can only go in certain game modes. I would probably recommend building him still because of some of the PvE content he can do as a lead. Spider-Man 2099 is a skip. Blue Marvel's a skip. Infinity Ultron's a skip. Nova, good support for some days for heroes. So because of his damage dealt passive support, I would recommend getting Nova still. Phyla-Vell, one of the worst supports right now because of all this damage dealt and all this other stuff that supports are doing. Nice to have an option, but really low on the support list even. Sentinel's a skip. Moon Girl's a skip. Ronin, even though with a nice lead, he's still a skip in my opinion. Phantom X is a skip. Crystal's a skip. Giant Man skip. Black Dwarf skip. Gladiator skip. Molecule Man skip. Daken's a skip. Juggernaut's a skip. Abomination for his leadership and his passive for Hulk. AB days, different type of game modes. I would build him for that if you can get a hold of him. Even in PvP, having his leadership with Hulk is kind of cool, although usually you want to have removes all debuffs. Absorbing Man's a skip. Agent Venom's a skip. Ares is a skip. Crossbones is a skip. Killmonger's a skip. Goliath is a skip. Gorgon's a skip. Gorilla Man's a skip. Hogan's a skip. Hulkling's definitely a skip. Jessica Jones is part of that budget PvP team with Daredevil and Luke Cage if you really want to. Since you have those three, that's why I'm saying you don't necessarily need Iron Fist. She's not really met anywhere, but she does give a hard time in PvP for some of the conquest modes and stuff. Molten Man's a skip. Red Hulk's a skip. Rhino's a skip. Scream's a skip. Scourge is a skip. The Thing, basically support for Human Torch and Mr. Fantastic Invisible Woman, so he's a skip because right now they're just not meta. Ulick's a skip. Volstag's a skip. Warwolf's a skip. White Tiger's a skip. Deathlock's a skip. Inferno's a skip. Caecilius is a skip. Lash is a skip. Lincoln Campbell, even with his leadership, I would still say is a skip. Maximus is a skip. Songbird's a skip. Ulysses Claw is a skip. Wasp is a skip. Whiplash is a skip. Wiccan's a skip. Yellow Jacket's a skip. Baron Zemo, even with his leadership, I would still call him a skip. Bobby Morse is a skip. Darkhawk's a skip. Fandrill's a skip. Ghost is a skip. Hellcat's a skip. Karnak is a skip. Kid Kaiji's a skip. Korath is a skip. Maya Lopez, even with a decent leadership, there's so many better options. Skipper. Misty Knight is worth building to a tier 2 because of how good Luna does with that extra 60% cold damage. I would still recommend building Misty Knight. Even though I still argue there's better options for AB, she's worth considering. Scorpion's a skip. Silk is a skip. Viper's a skip. Yondu's a skip. Anti-Man's a skip. Destroyer's a skip. Ghost Rider Robbie Reyes. I think he actually has a passive that's supposed to be really good. Yeah, look at this. So, increases fire damage, right? And this is for flame allies, so you could use them with Ghost Rider as a support. But, I mean, if you're not using them with Ghost Rider, I'd probably skip them. Hellstorm's a skip. Hyperion's a skip. Iron Hammer's a skip. Nova's a skip. Quasar's a skip. Satana is actually a solid leadership option for fire characters because she does 70% increased fire damage. So I would build her, level her up to tier 2 as a level 60 as a lead character with her uniform if you can get it. Singularity's a skip. Slapstick's a skip, Thane's a skip, Victorious is a skip, even though she works well as a lead option for Doom, usually using Doom's leadership in PvP anyway. And there we go. I went through all 200-something characters, 258 characters. That's my opinion. That's who I think you should build. That's who I like. That's who I think is meta. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. This is all opinion-based. I'm definitely open for hearing your feedback if you agree or disagree. If there's some characters that I spoke ill of and you think that they're better, for what reason? And who would you take out? Who do you think they're better as? Because in some cases, I said I would skip them. Even though they're a good, solid character and they have a good upgrade, there's someone else better. So go with that better character. That's what I was trying to go with here. So anyway, hopefully that wasn't too long, and thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.